Have you ever looked at someone in their late 70s or even 80s and thought to yourself, how on earth are they still going strong? They've got that spark in their eyes, that steady step in their walk, and that curious mind that still asks questions, tells jokes, and remembers the little details most people forget. You see them laughing with their grandchildren, gardening in the morning sun, or even signing up for something new, like a painting class or dance group. And you can't help but wonder, what's their secret? Is it luck? Good genes? Some kind of magic? Or is there something deeper going on, something we can actually understand, support, and maybe even nurture in ourselves or our loved ones? If you're between 65 and 85, or you're caring for someone who is, what I'm about to share might just change the way you see aging altogether. Because science is revealing something incredible. There are certain signs, 8 of them, in fact, that might quietly be telling us someone is on track to live not just longer, but better. I'm talking about living into their 90s, or even hitting 100, with clarity in their thoughts, strength in their body, and peace in their spirit. No hospital bed stories. No long, painful declines. But real, vibrant years filled with connection, purpose, and joy. Now here's the thing. These signs aren't loud. They are not flashy. They often go unnoticed because they seem so simple, so ordinary. But if you know what to look for, you'll start to see the difference between just getting older and aging well. By the end of this video, you'll know these 8 powerful signs, and chances are, at least one of them will make you stop and think about someone you know. Maybe even yourself. Some might surprise you. Some might inspire you. And some might even spark a conversation that changes your family's future. So before we dive in, let me ask you something important. Are you here because you care about aging well? About protecting your mind, your body, your independence, or the health of someone you love? If that's you, I want you to type "still thriving" down in the comments. Let's see how many of us are in this together. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because here at Elders Wisdom Institute, we're building something special. A place where experience is honored, wisdom is shared, and growing older is something to be proud of. Alright, ready to find out if you or someone you love is showing the signs of living to 100? Let's get into it. Let's start with something beautifully simple, and yet incredibly powerful, a curious mind. Think about someone like Mr. Thompson. He's 84 years old. Every morning, he sits by the window with his coffee and the newspaper, yes, the actual printed kind. He reads every article, underlines words he doesn't know, and then, he looks them up. Later that afternoon, you might find him watching a documentary about deep-sea creatures or attending a local library talk on artificial intelligence, just because it sounded interesting. Now here's what most people miss: that kind of curiosity isn't just a personality trait. It's mental fuel. It's like exercise for the brain. And science backs this up. Multiple studies have found that older adults who stay curious tend to have stronger memory, slower cognitive decline, and even longer lifespans. Why? Because curiosity stimulates neural connections. It keeps the brain active, adaptable, and alert. And the brain, much like a muscle, stays young when it's being used. But here's where many people get it wrong. They think curiosity in an older adult is just nosiness or something childish. They'll say, "Why are you asking so many questions?" Or, "Just relax, you don't need to learn about all that now." But brushing off that desire to explore? That's a mistake. Because when someone keeps asking questions, keeps learning, wondering, challenging their mind, they're not just keeping boredom at bay. They're keeping dementia at a distance. They're extending the vitality of their mind, and possibly their years on this earth. So, if you or someone you love has that spark of curiosity, nurture it. Pick up new books. Watch documentaries. Try a new language. Start a small discussion group at your local senior center. Curiosity doesn't fade with age unless we let it. Now, curiosity is powerful on its own. But when it's paired with something deeply human, connection, that's when the real magic happens. Let's talk about that next. Let me tell you about Ellen. She's 78. Every Thursday at 2 p.m., without fail, she sets out her china teacups, slices a bit of lemon, and opens the door to 3 of her childhood friends. They sit around the table, sip tea, share stories, and laugh. And when I say laugh, I mean that deep, belly-shaking kind of laugh that leaves your cheeks sore and your heart lighter. To an outsider, it might just look like a friendly get-together. But what's really happening around that table is medicine. Real, life-extending medicine. Because science now tells us something both profound and urgent: loneliness is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's not an exaggeration. That's data. People with strong social connections have significantly lower risks of heart disease, stroke, depression, and cognitive decline. But here's the thing. A lot of people confuse solitude with peace. They say things like, "She's fine on her own," or "He doesn't mind being alone, he's always been quiet." But long-term isolation doesn't bring peace. It brings wear and tear on the brain, on the heart, and on the immune system. Even the most independent soul needs meaningful connection to thrive. So what can you do? Simple things make a big difference. Regular phone calls, weekly visits, community center programs. And if leaving the house is difficult, try online meetups. Even a 10-minute video chat can lift the spirit and support the brain. Social connection isn't just about being surrounded by people. It's about being seen, being heard, and being loved. And here's the beautiful part. It's never too late to rebuild or strengthen those bonds. Now, we've touched on the power of an open mind and a connected heart. But let's move from the emotional to the physical, with a sign that shows up in your everyday movement, sometimes in ways you wouldn't even expect. Next time you're with your loved one, don't just look at them. Watch how they walk. Are their steps steady and smooth? Or do they shuffle, hesitate, or sway side to side like they're unsure where the next step will land? You'd be amazed at how much the body reveals in those simple steps. Researchers have found something fascinating. Gait speed, the pace at which someone walks, is actually one of the strongest predictors of how long they might live. Not just how long they move, but how long they thrive. Now, that might sound surprising, but think about it. Walking takes coordination, muscle strength, joint health, balance, and brain power, all working together. So when someone walks with ease, it means their entire system is still communicating well. Their body isn't just going through the motions, it's holding together. It's strong. But here's where we often get it wrong. So many people believe that slow walking is just normal aging. But it's not always about age. Sometimes, a sudden change in the way someone walks, shorter steps, feet dragging, leaning to one side, can be a quiet signal. It might mean something's going on with the nervous system, the muscles, or even the brain. And ignoring that? That can lead to falls, injuries, or early decline. But here's the good news: mobility can be protected. You don't need marathons or intense workouts. Gentle, daily walks, balance exercises, chair yoga, even using small hand weights or resistance bands. And if there's noticeable weakness or instability, a physical therapist can guide you with safe, targeted movements. Maintaining balance and movement isn't just about avoiding falls, it's about protecting independence. And independence is one of the strongest predictors of joy in later years. Now, while walking and movement show us a lot about what's happening on the outside, let's take a look at what's going on inside, in the heart, in the lungs, in the energy that fuels it all. That brings us to the next sign. Picture Margaret. She's 80 years old. Every morning, before the world really wakes up, she rolls out her mat in the living room, closes her eyes, and breathes. Deep, slow, calming breaths. In through the nose, hold, and gently out through the mouth. Then she stretches, nothing fancy, just enough to wake up her muscles and say to her body, "We're still in this together." Now, to the average person, it might not look like much. But that quiet morning routine? It's helping her heart stay strong. It's keeping her lungs open and flexible. And it's giving her nervous system the message, you are safe, you are steady, and you are alive. You see, a steady heart rate and calm, rhythmic breathing aren't just pleasant feelings, they're biological signs of resilience. Science tells us that a strong cardiovascular and respiratory system, especially in older adults, is one of the clearest indicators of how well the body can adapt to stress, illness, and even injury. It's a sign that the system still has bounce-back power. But here's where it often goes unnoticed. We tend to accept things like shallow breathing, chest tightness, or even unexplained fatigue as just part of getting older. We hear someone sigh a lot, or pause to catch their breath after a short walk, and we brush it off. But those quiet signals? They're not just signs of age. They could be early signs of decline, subtle clues that the heart and lungs need attention. And here's what's powerful about that, it's not too late to support it. Simple breathing exercises, like deep belly breathing or guided breath work, can improve oxygen flow and reduce strain on the heart. Even 5 minutes a day makes a difference. Pair that with regular checkups, especially for blood pressure, heart rhythm, and oxygen levels, and you're giving your body what it needs to keep going strong. Because when your breath flows freely, life does too. Now let's shift gears. From something internal and often silent, to a sign that's usually overlooked, but speaks volumes about vitality and emotional strength. And it shows up not in the body, but in the spirit. Let me introduce you to Frank. He's 81 now. But 5 years ago, he faced something that shook his entire world. He lost his wife, the love of his life, after 52 years of marriage. And yes, he grieved. He still does in quiet moments. But every morning, Frank opens the blinds, makes his coffee, and says, out loud, "Thank you for one more day." He tends to his garden. He waves to the kids next door. And when you ask him how he's doing, he says, with a gentle smile, "Better than I was yesterday." That's not just a sweet attitude. That's resilience, and it's more powerful than most people realize. A study out of Harvard found that optimists live up to 15% longer than those who are more pessimistic. Why? Because optimism doesn't just make you feel better emotionally, it actually impacts your physical health. Lower stress levels, reduced inflammation, stronger immunity. It's all connected. But let's clear up a common misconception. People sometimes think that being optimistic means ignoring pain. That it's unrealistic, even naive. But true optimism isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about believing that even in pain, there's still purpose. Even in hardship, there's still healing. And like any strength, it can be built. Start simple, write down one thing you're grateful for each day. Say something kind to yourself in the mirror. Take part in something bigger than yourself, maybe through a spiritual practice, maybe through helping someone else. Volunteering, mentoring, even sharing a smile with a stranger, all of it adds up. Because when you start to shift your perspective, your body shifts with it. The mind leads, and the body follows. And Frank? He's not just surviving. He's still growing, still giving, still grateful. And that outlook, it's adding years to his life. And life to his years. Now, speaking of strength, let's turn to something that fuels every part of your body and brain. It's time to talk about what's on your plate. Let's take a trip to Okinawa, Japan. A small island, quiet and unassuming, but it holds one of the most powerful secrets to longevity. It's where some of the world's longest living women reside, many still active, joyful, and sharp well into their 90s and beyond. So, what's on their plates? Not fancy superfoods. Not the latest diet trends. No expensive powders or pills. Mostly plants. Colorful vegetables, steamed or lightly stir-fried. Bowls of rice, small servings of fish, a sprinkle of seaweed. And always, just enough to feel nourished, never stuffed. They live by a gentle rule called Hara Hachi Bu, which means eat until you're 80% full. And that one habit alone, listening to their body instead of overeating, has likely saved thousands of lives over generations. Now, science backs this up. The blue zones, regions around the world with the highest concentrations of people who live past 100, share one big thing in common: a modest, mostly plant-based diet. Low in processed sugars. Rich in nutrients. And deeply connected to tradition. Here's the thing, though, in today's world, we're bombarded with confusing health advice. Take this vitamin. Try this cleanse. But when you strip it all down, it's not about what's trendy, it's about what's natural and sustainable. And that's where we often get it wrong. Some believe eating for longevity means a complicated routine or expensive grocery lists. But it doesn't. You don't need perfection, you need consistency. Simple changes go a long way. Add more leafy greens to your meals. Cut back on sugary drinks. Choose whole foods over processed ones. And above all, hydrate, because even slight dehydration can affect everything from your mood to your memory. Eating well doesn't mean following a strict diet. It means feeding your body with love and wisdom. And speaking of wisdom, let's shift now to something that's harder to see but just as important. Because when the body is fed well, the next thing to nourish is the mind. And mental sharpness, especially in later years, is one of the clearest signs of extraordinary longevity. Picture Mrs. Rivera. She's 82, soft-spoken and gentle, but don't let that fool you. She remembers every one of her 7 grandkids' birthdays. Right down to what cake they each like. And just last month, she learned how to use a tablet to video call her family across the country, all by herself. That, right there, is mental flexibility. And it's one of the clearest signs of a brain that's still vibrant, still adaptive, still alive. Here's what the science says: your brain doesn't stop growing once you hit a certain age. Thanks to neuroplasticity, older adults can still form new connections, learn new skills, and improve cognitive function if the brain stays stimulated. But many people don't realize this. Too often, we hear things like, "Oh, he's just forgetful, it comes with age." And sure, a little memory lapse here and there is normal. But consistent forgetfulness, confusion, or mental fog shouldn't just be brushed off. They could be early signs of something deeper. Or they might simply mean the brain needs more engagement. And here's the good news: mental sharpness isn't about IQ or formal education. It's about staying mentally active. Try simple brain games. Crossword puzzles. Sudoku. Take up a new hobby, painting, writing, even learning a new language. Or ask a tech-savvy grandchild to teach you how to use a new device. Not only will you bond, you'll be building your brain in the process. Because the mind, just like a muscle, needs to be used. Or it begins to shrink. And when someone like Mrs. Rivera not only keeps track of her family but also learns new tricks in her 80s, she's doing more than staying current. She's future-proofing her brain. Now, let's talk about something unexpected. Something that often gets overlooked, but might be one of the most powerful indicators of all. The final sign might just surprise you. Let me tell you about Harold. He's 83, walks with a cane, and always wears a flat cap tipped just slightly to the side. But the thing people remember most about Harold isn't how he walks or what he wears. It's how he makes them feel. At every family gathering, without fail, he tells a joke. Not always the funniest one, but the kind that gets everyone laughing anyway. His grandkids roll their eyes, his daughter shakes her head, but by the end, everyone's smiling. Every single time. That's Harold's secret. He finds the funny side of life, even in tough times. And believe it or not, that sense of humor isn't just charming, it's life-extending. Here's why. Science has shown that laughter is more than just a moment of joy. It boosts the immune system. It reduces stress hormones like cortisol. It improves blood flow, relaxes muscles, and even relieves pain. And perhaps most importantly, it brings people together. A good laugh connects us. And in older age, that connection can be a lifeline. But here's where we get it wrong. So many people believe that aging has to be solemn. That growing older means becoming more serious, more withdrawn, more quiet. But the truth is, joy is essential to longevity. When you keep your sense of humor, even as life gets harder, you're not ignoring reality. You're choosing to rise above it. And joy, just like curiosity or strength, is a muscle. It can be exercised. Watch your favorite comedy shows. Retell a funny memory. Hang around people who make you laugh until you can't breathe. Harold doesn't joke around because life is easy. He jokes around because he chooses to find light in the shadows. And maybe, just maybe, that's why he's still here, joking, loving, and living. So now that we've explored all 8 signs, let's take a moment to talk about what it all really means, not just on the surface, but deep down where it touches your heart. So, let's take a moment to reflect. We've talked about 8 powerful signs that might just mean you, or someone you love, is on the path to a long, vibrant life. We began with curiosity, that unshakable desire to keep learning, asking questions, exploring the world. Then we moved into the warmth of connection, those deep social bonds that nourish the heart just as much as the mind. We talked about gait and balance, how steady steps often signal strength beneath the surface. We breathed through heart health and lung power, the quiet rhythms that keep us resilient day after day. We smiled with optimism, remembering that a hopeful heart can carry us through even the darkest seasons. We honored the role of simple, healthy food. The kind that doesn't come in a bottle, but from nature. We explored the beauty of mental sharpness and the joy of learning something new, whether it's a crossword puzzle or a smartphone app. And finally, we laughed. Because humor, that spark of lightness, might just be one of the strongest medicines of all. So now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these signs do you recognize in yourself? Or in your mom, your dad, your spouse, or even a friend who inspires you? Or maybe one of them surprised you. Which one made you pause and think, maybe I need more of that in my life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, because this channel, Elders Wisdom Institute, is not just about information. It's about community. It's about walking this journey together. And if this video brought you comfort, or sparked a new perspective, or simply made you feel seen, then I invite you to subscribe. Not because of the algorithm, but because we're creating a safe, thoughtful space where aging is no longer feared, but embraced with dignity, curiosity, and strength. So go ahead, tap that subscribe button. Join us as we share more stories, more insights, and more ways to live with awareness and joy, at any age. Thank you for being here. Truly. Stay strong. Stay curious. Stay hopeful. And remember, whether you're 65, 85, or anywhere in between, you're not done growing. There's still time. There's still life. Until next time.